Hey everyone, so before we start today's video, I just wanted to make a few event announcements from the Florida Barter Hub. This is Sam Davis's group. They are putting on a basic first aid scene safety patient assessment event on June 28th. So if you live in the Florida area and you would like to learn about this, I highly recommend that you check out the event. And the next event that they're putting on, another one, is called It's a Return to True Community, and this is happening on June 5th and June 7th, and it's an opportunity for you to trade, share, barter, get to know people. And the third event that they're putting on is the free hurricane preparedness distribution event. It's going to be held on Saturday, June 6th in multiple locations starting at 9 a.m. I'll make sure to put information in the description below. You can also find out more details about these events just by registering with Prepping Communities and checking out Sam Davis's Florida Barter Hub group. I would recommend checking out this group. They're always putting on events. It's such an active group, and I think it's just a true testament to what preparedness events should be about. So I hope that you will check them out, and let's get on with today's video. Hey everyone. Okay, imagine this. You walk into your local grocery store tomorrow and you see like half the shelves are empty. The bottled water is gone. People are panic buying. The fuel stations are backed up, and the refrigeration systems are failing during rolling outages. Question: how long do you think it would take for people, or before people around you start getting nervous? I don't think it would take very long because honestly, modern life has become extremely good at making infrastructure feel invisible. Like, food always arrives, the water flows, the truck moves, and the power works. And most people, well, we never really think about the systems behind all of this, right? Until something suddenly interrupts them. And then we begin realizing very quick how dependent everyday life really is on systems that we rarely even notice. So today's video is part 3 of our video series based on the handbook, After SHTF, Now What? Your Survival Handbook, and you can find that on preppingcommunities.com, where membership is free. This section, it focuses on something that becomes incredibly important during any serious emergency, and that is food and water. Because once people start realizing that the stores are emptying, the supply chains are slowing down, the refrigeration is failing, and or water systems are becoming unstable, the fear that's going to set in is going to spread incredibly quick. And not because we are irrational human beings, but because food and water, they are our survival systems. And honestly, I think most people probably assume that those systems will always just keep working in the background forever. I know that I have always assumed that, or I always did before I actually started learning about preparedness. So I think one of the bigger preparedness questions that people should be asking themselves right now is, like, how long could your area realistically function if major supply chains stop moving normally? Because most people, they're going to focus on having some supplies, but what people often overlook is how interconnected this system that we are part of really is. Like, the food, it depends on trucking, it depends on fuel, it depends on refrigeration, the warehouses, the labor, the payment systems, the transportation infrastructure. And then water, well, that depends on pumping stations, electricity, treatment plants, pressure systems, maintenance crews. Preparedness, I say it all the time, it's not just about stockpiling. I always thought it was, and as I learned more about what preparedness is all about, I quickly learned that it is not just about stockpiling. It is about understanding how our systems actually work and what happens when those systems start struggling. And one major theme throughout this part of the handbook is this: modern supply systems appear stable, but they depend on constant movement. And most grocery stores only carry a limited inventory. The trucks arrive, the shelves get stocked, more trucks arrive, it's efficient, but efficiency and resilience, they are not the same thing. And emergencies expose that vulnerability very quickly. And I think a lot of people, I know I would be shocked how fast shelves could start looking different if deliveries slowed down for even just a short period of time. Could your local area handle even 1 week, just 1 week of serious supply disruption? Because one of the first visible signs, of instability is usually public behavior. People begin panic buying, fuel lines form, shelves empty, stress spreads. And honestly, sometimes shortages become worse just because of the fear itself. And then the moment that people start thinking there may not be enough, the behavior changes almost immediately. Preparedness is partly about understanding these patterns before they happen, because emotional decision making during chaos, it often creates more problems. So food, it gets most of the attention, but water may actually become the more immediate problem, because people can survive much longer without food than without clean water. And a lot of people, well, they rarely think about like the pumping stations, the treatment facilities, the backup power, electrical dependencies, infrastructure maintenance. Water just quietly works every day until suddenly it doesn't. And honestly, people probably don't think much about water systems until the second the tap stops working. And if outages spread, water problems may follow surprisingly quick. And a lot of prepared people eventually realize that water resilience matters more than almost anything itself. So one thing that this section of the handbook talks about a lot is food preservation as well, because preparedness isn't just about buying food. It's also about understanding how to preserve it once refrigeration systems start failing. Things like smoking meat, salting, curing, pressure canning, dehydration, cold storage. It used to be normal life skills. Like for so many people, we just kind of lost track of that. And the previous generations understood that they understood these skills because they had to. Now, a lot of that knowledge has slowly disappeared because modern systems made life more convenient. My youngest son has been home for about a week, and we've always canned. Well, my husband mostly, but I've started really getting into it in the last few years. But I was canning. I made cowboy candy. Somebody posted a video on our platform, Prepping Communities, about cowboy candy. So I thought, hey, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to do it on my own, not with my husband's help. I'm going to do it all by myself. And I learned things, but I was showing my son like why they didn't seal properly, and that was because I didn't twist the lid tight enough. So I had to go through the whole process again. I explained how you had to keep the rim of the jars clean, like just things like that. He had no idea. So my goal this year is to teach him when he's home as much about food preservation and preparedness as much as possible. We taught him, my husband taught him how to teach how to change the oil in the car a few weeks ago when he was home. And it's not that we never wanted to show him. He's a soccer player, so he's been out of the country for many of his high school years, so we just never got around to it. But now it's a priority because we see how the systems are changing and what's coming down the pipe, and I want him to be as prepared as possible. So it just means like practicing these preparedness skills as much as possible. Don't just read about them, practicing them. And because a lot of the knowledge that has slowly disappeared because our modern life has made these systems more convenient. And I believe that is by design. Anyways, that's a whole other video. But one really important idea throughout this section is this. Most shortages, they're not going to happen instantly. It's kind of like that slow burn, right? It's the frog in the boiling water. The small disruptions are going to continually, slowly compound into larger ones. The transportation delays are going to affect the stores. The fuel shortages are going to affect the trucking industry. Communication problems will affect logistics, and public panic accelerates demand. And then suddenly, systems that looked stable a few days earlier begin struggling. So prepared people like us, we often focus heavily on recognizing the patterns early, reducing dependency, conserving resources, and adapting before panic spreads everywhere. We need to stop waiting until shelves are already empty before it's probably too late, before we act. And it's that aha moment, right? Like, one thing I think a lot of people slowly realize is this: we have got to reduce our dependency on this big, I'm going to say it, this big corrupt system, because the more dependent we are and our everyday life becomes on highly complex systems, the more disruptive it's going to become to us when those systems stop functioning normally. Again, convenience and resilience are not the same thing. And I'm going to bring it back to this because this section, it focuses on something really important, and that is community. Communities usually adapt better than isolated individuals. Historically, communities with local food production, shared knowledge, communication, preservation skills, practical trades, cooperation, often handled instability way better. And that is a huge reason why we created our platform, preppingcommunities.com. We know how important it is for people to be able to connect, prepare, and share, to learn together, discuss preparedness, share knowledge, and become a little more resilient together. And this handbook, it also talks repeatedly about offline preparedness, because if the internet systems become unstable, which they will, you may lose access to like your purification guides, food preservation information, the medical information, preparedness checklists, practical survival knowledge. That is a reason that Prepper Offline exists. It allows you to store preparedness information fully offline across your USB drives, your laptops, your external drives, your off-grid systems, because preparedness knowledge is only useful if you can still access it when infrastructure becomes unreliable. And one of the biggest preparedness lessons in this section is this: modern food and water systems, they are incredibly efficient, but they are also highly interconnected and highly dependent on infrastructure continuing to function normally. Again, preparedness, guys, it is not about panic. I don't want my videos to be about panic. I want them to be about understanding how systems work, how disruptions spread, and how to adapt before confusion and shortages begin affecting everyone else. So I'm curious, what do you think is the most overlooked weakness in modern food and water systems right now? Please drop your comments below. Like, how long do you think your local area could realistically function if major supply chains were seriously disrupted? And in the next video, we're going to move into part 4, and that is medical preparedness, because during prolonged emergencies, even small medical problems can become much larger survival problems very quick. So that is a wrap for today's video, guys. I appreciate you spending some time with me today. I hope you find these videos helpful. And as always, until the next video, stay safe, stay aware, keep learning, and I will see you in the next one.